Iwo Jima, 750 miles south of Tokyo. Navy films show phases of the three-day bombardment prior to amphibious invasion of the 8-square-mile island. Naval assaults on Iwo actually began early in December with several softening up shellings preceding present operations. Carrier-based aircraft also give strong support. They attack in the area of Mount Suribachi, 550-foot volcanic cone at the island's southern end. A natural fortress honeycombed with pillboxes and caves containing formidable gun emplacements. In addition to the carrier strikes, Army bombers hammered Iwo for 72 days. On 16th February, carrier planes pounded targets at Tokyo and Yokohama, partly as a diversion for the Iwo landings 3 days later. Transport area. Admiral Nimitz announces that more than 800 ships of all types participate in the Iwo assault. An estimated 40,000 Marines are ready to hit the beaches. Opposing them is a Jap garrison of 20,000 men. Landing craft rendezvous on D-Day, 19th February. Naval bombardment of the beach area continues, augmented by an intensive close-in cover barrage delivered by LCIs. A warship is hit. The enemy is employing dual-purpose guns, 120mm mortars, and his new 1,100-pound rockets. Elements of Lieutenant General Holland M. Smith's Pacific Marines approach the eastern beaches of Iwo. 4 initial landings are made just north of Suribachi and further up the coast. The 4th and 5th Marine Divisions each send 2 regiments with the vanguard force. H hour is 0900, and the landings begin as scheduled. Treacherous volcanic sands bog down our equipment. From the ridges, a Jap barrage hampers unloading operations. One of the shells hit this LCI. Among the casualties is a Navy combat cameraman who photographed several of the preceding scenes. Support landings. Additional waves drive shoreward in the face of heavy mortar fire. Preliminary bombardment has driven the enemy from his beach positions and results in relatively light opposition through the early stages of the advance. However, casualties are reported to be high among exposed beach and shore parties responsible for bringing up supplies. The loose, brittle volcanic cinder which forms the surface of this island makes difficult the use of ordinary mechanized equipment. It's reported that even the Jeep is unable to maneuver. Only the LVTs are found effective in hauling supplies. Resistance grows as the Marines push across the narrow isthmus with the objective of isolating the Mount Suribachi area at its southern tip. Above the beaches, the enemy is entrenched in caves and dugouts, 30 to 40 feet deep. 2-story pillboxes and blockhouses, often buried in the volcanic deposits. Jap resistance is described by the Navy as the most fanatical yet encountered in Pacific warfare. We suffer 3,650 casualties in the first 48 hours. Rugged and rocky as it is, the island has enough flat land for airfield construction. Marines attack Mount Suribachi Airdrome, also known as Motoyama Airfield No. 1, visible at the crest of the hill. It's the first of 2 operational strips on Iwo. The 3rd field is unfinished. Once in American hands, the island would become highly valuable as a base for fighters to escort our bombers on missions over Japan. Suribachi Airfield is captured on D+1 day. Air Force's films of the P-59A, first jet-propelled plane built by American engineers. Powered by jet propulsion engines which eliminate propellers, this type of aircraft has been termed the plane of the future. The principle of jet propulsion is based on an elementary law of physics. To every action, there is always an equal and opposite reaction. This can be illustrated with a toy balloon. The pressure of the air in the balloon acts with equal force all around the inside. When the balloon neck is opened, pressure on that end causes the air to rush out. The opposing pressure on the other end reacts, propelling the balloon in a direction opposite to that of the escaping air. A rocket operates in the same way. The heat of the burning fuel is used to create great pressures. When the pressure of the tail is released, the continuing pressure at the head propels the rocket forward. The jet engine is like the rocket except that it draws its oxygen from the atmosphere. Inside the engine, the air is highly compressed. The compressed air is sprayed with fuel and ignited. The intense heat generated causes the gases thus formed to expand and rush to escape. Part of the power of the escaping gases drives the compressor. The remaining power blasts the gases out through the jet nozzle. The reaction is the movement of the plane forward. Having only 10% of the parts required in the standard types of plane engines, the jet engine can be quickly serviced. 4 men can remove both engines of the P-59A and install new ones in a single day. At present, the chief disadvantage of the jet plane is its prodigious consumption of fuel, making long flights difficult. The jet engine operates on almost any hydrocarbon fuel, such as kerosene, gasoline, or alcohol. Although the P-59A has the distinction of being the pioneer American jet propulsion plane, it's already being succeeded by more advanced types, notably the P-80 Shooting Star, claimed to be the fastest fighter in existence. Experiments in bridge building carried on by an engineer school in Brussels, Belgium, show new developments in spanning gullies and ravines that are 40 or more feet deep. The pile driver is fastened on the forward end of the bridge. Propelled forward over a new type of rollers by means of a tractor, the bridge carries the pile driver along with it from section to section. As soon as the bridge rolls into position, the pile driver goes to work. Wooden piles or metal pipes are used as piers for the support of the bridge. Pushing the Germans back on the Alsace front. Under cover of an M4 tank, men of the 3rd Platoon B Company, 68th Armored Infantry, advance on a house in Oberhoffen. The house is shelled at point-blank range. The platoon closes in. After several days fighting inside the town, this house is one of the few remaining enemy strong points. The platoon rushes the house for the final onslaught. Enemy fire has finally been silenced. During the tank barrage, several Germans remained unharmed in the cellar. Their surrender leaves only a few isolated snipers. Before darkness, the remainder of the town is cleaned up. On 12th February, General George C. Marshall, Chief of Staff, U.S. Army, arrives at the 15th Army Group Headquarters, Italy, for a 3-day inspection of the Italian front. He's escorted by Lieutenant Generals Clark and McNarney. British Empire, Brazilian, and Italian troops in a ceremony honoring the Chief of Staff. American, British, and colonial women form part of the honor guard. The General and his official party inspect members of the 15th Army Group. The Irish Fusiliers Bagpipe Band performs a special march. The General leaves for a first-hand survey of the front line area. The official party heads up a muddy road near a divisional command post. General Marshall inspects the troops, then addresses them on the tasks ahead in the Italian theater of operations. Accompanied by the commanding officer, General Marshall visits a field artillery unit of the 92nd Division. At the Pisa airfield, General Marshall takes his departure from General Clark and his staff. The General enters his C-47 and prepares to continue his journey back to the United States. With the 6th Army in northern Luzon, field artillery units and troops of the 25th Infantry attack Jap positions in the Lupao and Umingan areas. In this action, roadblocks are established south of the town of Umingan, which give our forces complete control of the last remaining highway in the north-central plain. Bazookas fired point blank reduced Japanese pillboxes. Wreckage of a Jap convoy caught in a roadblock and wiped out by artillery. 8 tanks, 20 trucks, and 8 105mm guns were destroyed, and 54 enemy troops killed. Tank units and troops of Major General Vern D. Mudge's 1st Cavalry Division dismounted, crossed the Angat River at Bustos. This is the last important water barrier between the central Luzon plain and Manila. General MacArthur watches crossing operations. The Angat River is a wide stream that winds down from the hills northeast of Manila and flows into the Pampanga River near Kalumpit, where a bridgehead had previously been established by elements of the 37th Division, also advancing southward on Manila. Units of the 1st Cavalry Division, after overcoming sporadic Jap resistance in the Floridel and Malolos areas, run into an enemy roadblock in the hills about 12 miles north of Manila. Despite this delaying action, our troops push ahead. On 3rd February, troops of the 8th Regiment, 1st Cavalry, enter Manila at Grace Park on the northern outskirts of the city. Spearhead columns turn into the Avenida Rizal and move swiftly on the concentration camp at Santa Toma University and the Malacañan Palace on the north bank of the Pasig River. Filipinos turn out to give our troops an enthusiastic welcome. Taking part in the celebration, troops fill helmets and glasses with beer tapped from a nearby brewery. The American flag is raised at Santo Tomas University in the city of Manila. The university, used by the Japs as a prison camp, was seized by units of the 1st Cavalry Division, 1st American troops to enter Manila. Internees at Santo Tomas signed the identification register for shipment out of the area. At least 3,700 Allied nationals, most of them American civilians, were freed after 3 years' internment. As food allowances dwindled, the death rate in the camp increased sharply. After our tanks broke in, guards held more than 200 internees as hostages for 34 hours while the camp commander bargained for safe conduct of the Jap garrison. Shells from Jap heavy mortars and 3-inch guns blast the grounds and buildings of the university, which was under artillery attack for several days after its liberation. American guns massed in the university yard fire against enemy artillery positions. Both soldier and civilian casualties are suffered from the Jap shelling. Block-to-block street fighting rages in the Rosario suburb of Manila as troops of the 1st Cavalry Division and the 37th Infantry Division join to mop up Jap snipers and small resistance groups in the northern sections of the city. The enemy uses mortars, rockets, and artillery to hinder our advance. Riflemen and machine gunners cover patrols, ferreting out Jap snipers. Filipino girl guerrilla. Buildings are mined and fires started by the retreating Japs. Civilians flee from the burning buildings, salvaging furniture and household goods. Although few persons are injured by the fires, thousands are made homeless over wide areas in the northern part of the city. While inhabitants try to save a few prized possessions, looting adds to the terror and confusion. Jap atrocities in Manila. Men, women, and children suspected by the Japs of being relatives or aiding Filipino guerrillas are tortured, killed, and burned, their bodies thrown into this concrete culvert near a railroad station. Filipino collaborators rounded up by the guerrillas. One of them carried maps showing the burned area of Manila and locations that were to be fired by the Japanese. The collaborator is led through the streets of downtown Manila. Bilibid prison in the heart of Manila. More than 800 war prisoners and 550 civilian internees, including women and children, were rescued from this Japanese concentration camp when National Guardsmen of the 37th Division stormed the prison gates. Liberated American servicemen dig in the prison courtyard to find the regimental colors which they buried in the first days of their imprisonment, shortly after their capture at Bataan. General MacArthur visits Bilibid prison. He assured internees that every facility of the armed forces is being devoted to the care and attention of those who've been rescued. Fires in Manila's ruined dock area. The Japs, unable to hold the city, attempt to destroy it completely. Amphibious vehicles and infantry of the 37th Division under the command of Major General Robert S. Beitler move up for a crossing of the Pasig River into southern Manila, last remaining Jap stronghold in the Philippine capital. Entry into the southern part of Manila is delayed by Jap demolition of all 4 bridges across the Pasig River. Troops of the 1st Cavalry Division later joined forces with the 37th Infantry to encircle the Japs and compress them into a narrow pocket at the river's mouth. Elements of the 11th Airborne Division also participated in this encircling movement. The enemy is pushed back toward a last stand at Intramuros, the ancient walled part of the city of Manila on the south bank of the Pasig River. Intramuros has set a fire in the Jap suicide stand against American troops, closing in on the remnants of enemy resistance. Flames from the burning area light up the sky by night. Our troops advance into the stubbornly defended walled city, one building at a time. The Japs are unable to maintain continuous fire against infantry units, but slow down our progress with machine gun and sniper fire from concealed positions in walls, windows, and rubble. Narrowly escape a fire trap set by the Japs in Intramuros. The men withdraw along the Avenida Rizal under heavy machine gun fire and grenade attacks. Japanese resistance, concentrated in public buildings and city landmarks, is systematically reduced by artillery fire. Dozens of enemy guns, ranging from 20mm anti-aircraft guns to 155mm pieces, are knocked out in counterfire against Jap artillery positions. American shelling drives the Jap troops into the open. They dash for shelter across an open plaza. Burning Manila, free after 3 years of Japanese control.